Good evening, everyone. We have gathered here to celebrate the life of the first Lady Air Force Wing Commander. And of course, pay our respects to the Iron Lady Vijay Lakshmi Ramanan. I will begin by lighting the lamp.
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपो हरतु मे पापं सन्ध्यादीपनमोऽस्तु ते ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः आरोग्यं देहि पुत्रांश्च मतिं स्वच्छां हि मे सदा रवेरस्तं समारभ्य यावत् सूर्योदयो भवेत् रवेरस्तं समारभ्य यावत् सूर्योदयो भवेत् यस्य तिष्ठे गृहे दीपः तस्य नास्ति दरिद्रता शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
Sahib,
I'm going to start with inviting Ashwini from Sanjit, Bangalore.
I'm in a prayer
She's going
meeting.
to give us a brief about this illustrious personality. Ashwini, please come in.
Yes. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. To the world, she was Wing Commander Vijayalakshmi Ramanan, the first woman officer of the Indian Air Force. To those of us who knew her, she was Vijayalakshmi Amma, a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. She was a classic Tamil beauty with flawless skin, dark hair, sharp features, and adorned a traditional Vairam Mukuti, a diamond nose ring, and a Pattu Pavadai, Kanjivaram silk sari. She was courageous, passionate, and generous too. She nurtured life, brought many into this world with care and concern. In everything she did, she embodied action, emotion, and devotion. She had inner strength to take on challenges and chartered her own destiny. Balancing her duty to her family and to her work, she took on each day with total conviction. She healed the young and believed in the power of the universe. Vijayalakshmi Amma, for the untrodden paths that you have bravely walked on, for leading by example in everything that you took on, for your amazing personality, both inside and out, and for the accolades that you have received from all over the country. We respect you. We honor you. We bow to you. We salute you.
I shall now take you through her life journey by way of a few video interviews, press clippings, etc.
Four 4971 Medical, Indian Air Force. My full name is Vijay Lakshmi Ramanan. My birthday was 27th February 1924. When I retired, I was a wing commander. Quite for a number of years, I was the only lady in the Air Force. And altogether, maybe a dozen, including the Army, Navy, and the Air Force together. Initially, I was scared because I would never worked with men. But I had the braveness to face anything in life. In 1955, I lost my father. It was the time when my husband sent me the application to join the armed forces. So I applied. I was selected as a short service commissioned officer. In my case, it's very peculiar. I got a major rank. Now, most of them are wearing pants. Only very, very few people wear sari. Royal Air Force time, they had a particular color. And they said it's going to be Air Force blue. Then they sent me a sample. And blouse, the sleeves was a big problem. So we had to go a lot of correspondence between me and Air Headquarters. And finally they decided 3/4 sleeve. Then I said, no, this is not very comfortable. I said, like a man, we will fold it and iron it up. Because as a gynecologist, it's not comfortable to go and deliver a child with a sleeve this long. And I'm very proud that ladies have come forward in various branches in the Air Force, the Navy also, Army also. They're going to the frontier also now. Everybody is given the equal opportunity now. I like that. Whether I would have preferred to be a pilot, I cannot say now. It's too late to think about it. First thing is discipline. Second is punctuality. And whatever job you're doing, loyalty to your own profession. Sacrifice. It is got to be service before self. Your family life, your children, that all comes secondary. If I could do that, others can also do. No problem.
Hello and a warm welcome to another edition of To The Point, and this time it's a special episode coming to you from Bangalore with one of the rare gems of India. She's a 94-year-old lady. She's a retired wing commander, Vijay Lakshmi Ramanan, and she's also the first woman officer of the Indian Air Force. I welcome you, ma'am, on our special program.
Thank you so much.
You are a 94-year-old lady.
94 plus.
94 plus, and I must congratulate you. You do not look like a 94-year-old lady. So, what keeps you going at this age?
Mentally, I'm quite alert. I keep myself occupied all the time. I'm a disciplined person. Think about the old and enjoy myself with my family and my diet and the regime. And my activity keeps me going.
Vijay Lakshmi ji, My question to you related to your stint in the Indian Air Force is that you became an Air Force officer in 1955.
Yeah.
In those times when you had no other woman officer around you,
Yeah.
what was life for you in those days as a woman officer?
Initially, I was rather scared how I should manage myself with all the men around me. But when it came to work, it was only work.
Okay.
And everybody sort of were quite friendly and very supportive,
Okay.
I would say, at all levels.
So you never had any kind of restriction from your family, from your husband, or from your other members in the family telling you, oh, don't go into the Air Force?
No, no, no. Actually, it was motivated by my husband who sent the application form.
Okay.
And my mother, because my father was the First World War veteran.
Okay.
So she insisted that I should join, and I had my father-in-law's support also.
Okay.
So actually, the whole family was quite excited that this application form has been sent and I should apply for it. Whether I was going to get selected, I was not sure. But all the same, Army headquarters already made clear that I should be selected. And the three DSMS, they were fighting in front of me, which service shall I take her in? But that was the time when my husband was already in the army. He was being seconded to the Air Force.
Okay.
So they decided that I should also be sent to the Air Force.
Tell us a little about your life, because you were into the medical profession, I believe, right? So you donned the apron in those times when not many women were seen around. And in your day-to-day dealings with senior officers within the armed forces, I'm sure the life was not easy for you in those times because it was a conservative society at that time.
It's okay, but all the same, I made myself comfortable.
Okay.
And the relationship was so cordial, they were so respectful, and they took special care to see that I do my work properly. And they appreciated, actually, highly appreciated my everything,
Okay.
right from turnout downwards to the work and the result out of it.
When you compare your time with today's times of the armed forces, and now, of course, the number of women in the armed forces is rising, whether it is Navy, Army, or the Air Force. How will you bring out the comparison between your times and today's times?
Actually, I have not interacted much with the modern times at the moment, whereas I feel happy that a lot of ladies are coming forward to
Okay.
get into the services in different branches, including flying.
Okay.
And some of them have become fighter pilots now.
When you talk to the women of today who are in armed forces, they normally have one grouse that many times they are being told by the senior officers that, look, this is something which you can't do. It belongs to the male bastion. You're not supposed to do this. At least they are made to feel like that. In your time, in your interactions with your senior officers, did you ever feel at any point of time that, look, you're not supposed to go to a war, you're not supposed to work on a base, or you're not supposed to do what the males are doing? Did you have to face any
No,
moments
there
like
was
that?
absolutely no difference, except that I was a lady. One of my senior officers had commented that I'm a man in a woman's attire.
Okay. But
All kinds of responsibilities were given to me. I said no to anything. I did everything to my heart's content. I enjoyed.
okay. And you never had a problem with the night duties? You never
No,
had
we had to do night
odd
duties.
working hours?
No. They used to send an ayah in the ambulance because those days there was no car. They used to send only when there's an emergency. They used to send an ambulance with an ayah, and I hopped into it. And I didn't bother how I looked. The moment the phone call came, I was at the gate.
Okay.
And I will pick up the anesthetist on my way, and I'm happy. And if there is no proper servant to push the ayah, I push the stretcher, take them into the theatre.
I'm also told that India's first woman Air Marshal, Padma Bandyopadhyay,
Yeah.
she interned under you.
Yes,
And
she
not
was
many
a-
people know about this fact also. So tell us a little about your interactions with Padma
She
Bandyopadhyay.
passed out from AFMC, and she was in Bangalore, Hyderabad with me, And she worked under me, and we came together in the first batch to take over this hospital, Command Hospitals in Bangalore.
Okay.
She worked with me under me. And after that, when she was posted here also, she got married, we helped her. And when she got pregnant, I delivered both her kids.
Oh,
And when she was retiring, before that she came to Command Hospital to inaugurate the MRI. And she came home to pay her respects.
okay.
We keep still in touch with each other.
You're from South, and normally I have seen South Indian ladies wearing nose pins, especially on both the sides. Yours is missing. What is the reason? And were you allowed to wear your nose pins during your period in the in the Air Force?
So actually, after the interview, my husband took me to General Segal's house, and then he was mentioning to me that you may not be allowed to wear all that. But I don't know, nobody objected.
Okay.
Till I retired, till very recently, I was wearing. But now, because I've got some nose problem, I had to remove them.
But normally women are not allowed to wear nose pins.
Not even earrings with stones.
Okay.
Nothing very elaborate. But nobody objected. But seeing me, lots of people started wearing.
Women's safety is a very big issue in today's times, and it's very difficult to imagine that you in 1955 when you joined the armed forces, and you could have been in a very safe environment. So what about the safety aspect? Was it well looked after in your case, or were you,
Very well
did you
looked
ever
after.
face any challenging moments?
Very well looked after. Even after a party, when I have to drive my back home, the commanding officer sent somebody along with me in their vehicle so that I reach home safely.
Okay.
Very friendly, very homely. Like a family we behaved.
And you,
I had absolutely no problem.
and you had never had to face any kind of those maybe unfriendly moments, maybe from some of your relatives telling you that maybe sometimes, you know, when the internal family supports you, the extended relatives end up telling you, no, no, you must not get into a job which has odd hours, odd shifts. So you never had to face moments
Absolutely
like
no
this.
objection.
But how did you maintain your work life and the family balance? I mean, how did you bring about the balance between your work life and your family?
Management, when my two children were born, I had a very good ayah to look after.
Okay.
And I did my housework when I was at home, looked after them. Then later on, when my in-laws, my father-in-law retired, he was a doctor. And they were great support to me. And I'm all the time on my feet, really, either in the kitchen or doing the household work. I didn't mind doing any kind of job. And the moment I get a call, I go home. Day or night, sun or rain.
So during your odd shifts and odd hours, you never had your kids crying for you that, oh, mama, don't go.
No, actually my little son used to say, Mommy is going on call. You can't crib about it.
Okay,
So they were very conscious and very happy.
right.
The moment I get on the uniform, they know I'm going for work.
Okay.
Actually, they were also service kids.
Vijayalakshmi, you've been a veteran, and you've also seen various wars which India had to face. So tell us about your experiences. Did you get the chance to maybe go to the base where you know
No,
in those?
actually, I did not get a chance.
Okay.
The only occasion I went for a meeting to Pune, where family planning was one of the subjects.
Okay.
Otherwise, I didn't have much of a temporary duty at all. For one of the meetings in Bangalore, when I was in Secunderabad, one aircraft was detailed to take all the internees so that they get introduced to the service. That was the only occasion. Otherwise, I would only come hospital work.
You being the first woman officer of the Indian Air Force, I'm told that you also designed the uniform of the women. What was that experience like, and how was your option taken by the senior officers?
No, actually, when the uniform was designed, they gave us a silk which was Kashmiri silk with a faint blue. They said Air Force blue means the color differed from the compound wall or the kamarband of these officers wearing. So finally, it will be decided in one particular color. They sent a sample. Then finally, when I bought the silk, not Kashmiri silk, which was very flimsy, I bought Bangalore silk and I dipped in the dye, it became a little darker.
Okay.
The one which was washed was darker still. So I showed it to my director of medical services. Then any silk akin to the color given is approved.
Okay.
Originally, they wanted us to have full sleeves,
Okay.
which I wrote back and said is uncomfortable for a gynecologist to wear full sleeves all the time.
Okay.
So I got permission to roll it up. Then finally, they made it 3/4.
So it was at your insistence that they made the blouses
At my
3/4
instance.
sleeves.
At my instance.
Okay.
Initially, my colleagues were making fun of me, saying, if you keep on arguing, they may say sleeveless. I said, I don't want all that. I would prefer something else. If finally half sleeves I wanted, they said 3/4. Okay, I'm not objecting. I only said permission to roll up.
You're very fond of music and
Yeah, come
you
from-
have been into big time singing to the extent that your songs have been on the broadcast. So tell us a
Yeah.
little about that as well.
I'm coming from a musical family for more than 3 generations. We come from the Tyagaraja Swami Shishya Parampara.
Okay.
And my grandfather was a musician come lawyer, my father paternal side. And we were taught music at home by all eminent musicians. And I started ringing in the All India Radio at the age of 15.
Okay.
And from 1939, and even during service, I was broadcasting because I had to take a permanent permission from air headquarters, so that all the songs sung are all religious.
Okay.
So I got permission until 1971. Wherever I was transferred, the nearest Air Force station, I broadcasted. And while in Chennai, I used to compete for my college, and in all the intercollegiate music competition, I got the first prize.
Okay.
Jyoti. Jyoti. Something has happened.
Jyoti, you please stop sharing screen.
Yeah, you've shared screen by mistake. Yeah, back to you, Pavan.
Yeah, thank you.
And for the college. And I've sung in all the sabhas in Chennai, including Music Academy. And since my work pressure was so much, I could not spare any time during the working hours for recording.
Okay.
I had to stop singing because in Bangalore they wouldn't cooperate.
No, but when you were into service, then how did you find time to maybe go to various places and for your recordings? You never had to face any kind of resistance from the Indian Air Force?
No, while in Kanpur I had to travel up to Lucknow.
Okay.
But Secunderabad was okay. And Bangalore was also okay. And that's fine.
But you never had
Delhi
your,
also was okay.
okay, but you never had your bosses telling you that no, you can't pursue this passion because you are within the.
No, I got a complete acceptance.
Okay.
And I was also, I attended all the sabhas, all the kacheris in Bangalore. And I was the vice president of one of the sabhas till I sort of gave up.
At the age of 94, I'm told that you still file your own income tax return, which is so surprising. I don't do it, and many people like me, they don't do it, but they
I
approach
don't
their
file it
CAs.
actually. I prepare everything for my auditor.
Okay.
All the requirement details, I have to write it on a piece of paper. I give it to him. He peruses and then tells me this much tax you pay. I give the check.
Oh, so how do you manage to remember all this? Because generally I've seen women after 80 or maybe 80 plus, their touch wood, like your memory is so sharp, but normally I end up seeing women who don't remember half the things.
But God has given me an uncanny memory. And moreover, I personally feel that a musician always remembers better.
Oh, so
That is my theory.
that's a tip to other women as well. They need to involve
Definitely.
themselves more in
Yeah.
music. Okay. You were born in times when India was not independent.
Yeah.
And you have seen those times when freedom struggle was on, and you also saw that day when India actually became independent. What about your memories of those times?
Not much. Since my father was a British government servant, we were not supposed to talk about independence and so on and so forth.
Oh,
Yeah, my father was very strict. He says, my job will go away if you all talk about it. So we had to be very conservative and quiet.
okay. So you never raised the flag that quit India or Bharat Chodo or anything like
nothing,
that?
nothing of that kind.
Okay. But when actually India became independent, what was your memory like? I mean, what are the moments you really have etched in your mind?
Nothing. They said, hey, victory, victory, victory. Everybody we were writing about. That's all. Nothing much. It was a very quiet transformation, I would say.
So you don't have any bitter memories of the freedom struggle where maybe your family had to go through something or you had to face some very odd moments? You never had to face like that?
When Sarojini Naidu wanted to come to Chennai for her music, getting into politics, T.T. Krishnamachari election campaign. So they used to call me to sing patriotic songs for them.
Oh,
Yeah, I've called like that. And I visited, for every meeting that Gandhiji came, I went and in a khadi sari, I used to have special sari with a national flag like border.
okay.
I used to attend Jawaharlal Nehru, Sarojini Naidu, Indira Gandhi. I met all of them.
I believe you've also had interactions with President Radhakrishnan. Tell us a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
about that.
President Radhakrishnan was originally a family friend. And at that time, when I was joining Madras for my intermediate, my father didn't apply in time. All the colleges were closed, no seat at all available. In spite of his recommendation, the Britishers didn't want to give him a seat. Anyway, I managed to get a seat.
Okay.
And another thing was his daughter and one son, they were in college with me.
Okay.
The daughter was very senior to me. Son of course was senior, but not too senior. But he was a very intelligent person. And he broke the record in economics honors. I stood first in the university, more than another professor who was in Queen Mary's College. That is my remembrance. I didn't know him personally,
Okay.
but I see him, I know him.
What is your idea about the concept of Independence Day in today's times? Of course, 15th August 1947, India got its independence from the British Raj. But now when you see the concept of independence in modern times, what according to you is Azadi, or what according to you is independence in today's context?
Independence in the sense we should have full freedom. Particularly for women, there should be safety. That is what I will talk about. Children, women and children, that safety should be there. And the caste community creed should go. The oneness of all religions should be there. That is what I feel.
There are, of course, women are breaking barriers in various fields. And when we all look at you, we all feel that, of course, we have not achieved what you have done. You broke the glass ceiling way back in 1955 when not many women broke barriers. So what do you have to tell the women of today?
Women of today should follow the footsteps of the women who have achieved something. And some of the people whom I knew very closely, they felt that I was a role model for them. Some of them have suffered, like losing one's husband at a period when the children are all so small, and managing and coming up to a great level, you see. That is a big achievement, which very few have achieved. And quite of my friends have already told me that I'm a role model. But I try to impress to others, don't give up. Keep your chin up and do your duty and do work and achieve and do the best as you can in your own field.
I'm sure this is the spirit which all women would carry forward if they really have the grit and the determination to do something in life. But another aspect which I wanted to talk to you about was that you were also teaching in the medical college, I believe, as a gynecologist, as a senior doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
So-
a teacher also because all the nursing officers, particularly my subject, I had to teach them.
Okay.
And during that 1962 war, we were selecting doctors and nurses at that time. After they were selected, they were all posted. When I was in Secunderabad, they were all posted into MH Golconda.
Okay.
And they had to be given some training in various subjects. And my subject was always on my subject, plus a diet and medical board,
Okay.
because you have to know all these basic things. Not all of them have to do it, but I did everything.
But medical board is a tough thing to
Very
handle.
tough job. We deal with people who are boarded out of service on medical grounds, and we have to see that their benefit is not lost. And they have to, and the minimum stay in the hospital we have to take care of, and their return ticket, and we referring them to the various specialists, and getting the report done fast. Sometimes I have to go with the patient to the specialist, get the thing expedited.
Right. But you never had to face any kind of anger from the people because of your decisions you made or nothing ever like
In fact,
that?
none of my papers came back because they all appreciated.
Okay.
And they were all scared to put any paper on my table because I was used to find fault with them,
Okay.
because I was very methodic and you have to be very correct. The paper should be perfect.
Anything you would like to say about the present generation of the young officers who are coming in? Because not everything is very pleasant about the services, and there are a lot of controversies as well from time to time. And the officials, especially the women, have to face very tough times within the service. So, what do you have to tell them, except for your what you have said, that they need to work with their chin up and with determination? Anything, any experience you would like to share and give them that, look, this is an example where you need to follow?
Actually, even during times I found, even just before I was retiring also, I found
Okay.
the aptitude, day-to-day work, etc. I'm only concentrating on my work part of it. Somehow dedication should be there.
Okay.
That's it.
So, do you think that the dedication these days?
Discipline should be there, punctuality should be there, and loyalty to one's own profession is very important.
Okay.
And as a doctor, care of the patient is very important, the patient-care relationship, so that they will only come to you and not anybody else. In some of the men who have retired, they wanted their children to be delivered by me, even though they didn't mind paying in the civil hospitals.
You being the first woman officer, you were also the first Air Force couple of India, I believe. You and your husband together.
He was already in the Air Force, a little ahead of me from the Army. He was 4 years senior to me. And when he came to secondary to the Air Force, I got selected to the Air Force.
You were a doctor in the armed forces, and I believe those were times when you didn't have CT scan machines, there was no diagnostic machinery. How did you deal with the patients of those times?
Patient is always a patient, irrespective of what rank they come in.
Okay, so you never had any problems. I mean, what was your methodology or working with the patients in those times?
Actually, what I did was, there was a waiting room. I made when I was posted, because she knew typing and all that.
Okay.
So I used to give them a number, 1, 2, 3, 4 chits. And they came in that particular order. And I did give priority to emergency cases out of turn.
Okay.
And if I had to go to the operation theatre along with them immediately, I had to request the rest of them to wait, treat the patient, come back and then see them, irrespective of how long I take. Sometimes I had to see 220 patients at a time.
Oh.
And more than anything, during my service career, many a time I was alone. As an only gynecologist, I had to be on my feet 24 hours round the clock every day, including on annual leave
Right.
during time.
But did you ever have to tell your boss that, look, I want to go to the war and serve the people there? You said that you were not able to go to the war front, but did you ever express your sentiment that you
No,
want
no,
to
I
go
didn't.
to the war?
No, because I was not allowed to go. There was no need for me to go.
But do you think that women should go to the war base and where the actual fight is happening? Women soldiers now coming more and more. What is your idea? Because normally armed forces, people say that is a male bastion, though a lot of women have joined now. But still, you know, it is considered as a profession of the males.
Because your basic requirement is, I believe, as a doctor, it is anyway, wherever there is a requirement. But during my tenure, there was no need. The necessity to stay in a hospital was the more important.
Yeah.
And being the senior most in the Air Force, I was in the command hospital for 11 years. They couldn't touch me.
But what about women getting into the combat operations? Because for all these years, you know, there has been a perception that though things are changing now quite a bit, and women getting into as fighter pilots, going into combat operations. But what is your idea? Should women involve themselves in combat operations?
It all depends on their mental makeup,
Okay.
their mind. Because during my time, we were all very conservative. That is the way we've been brought up. Your thinking was different, but now it's not like that. Things have changed so much. One moves with the time.
At the age of 94, now you remember all your prescriptions, what you wrote, the medicines you wrote for every ailment. Are you able to recall? Are you able to write a prescription?
Every little thing I remember.
Okay.
If I start quoting, I have to go on quoting.
So you still have patients coming to you?
I advise them.
Okay.
Yeah. Till about 80 years, I was going to a nursing home, and one of my cousins' grandchild I delivered. Now she's 15 years old.
You still aspire to don your uniform?
Aspiration is there.
So you still want to see yourself in the uniform?
Yeah. For that matter, once upon a time, I wanted to be a Bharatanatyam dancer. At least I would have worn the dress and taken a photograph, which I didn't.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Vijayalakshmi.
Very.
So we have heard about her life journey from her own self. So now we will go through some of the pictures, and this is of course the 4 generations of the family. You can see our past president Sukanya, her son, and the granddaughter here. And then of course Kalpana will talk about the centennial year of Tangent India, how she came forward. And of course, I hope everybody knows that this illustrious lady that we are talking about is our own Sukanya, the past president, Tangent India's mother. And I have to say, Sukanya, you have been so unassuming, just like your mother here. And of course, a lot of our Tangent members have had very close encounters and very pleasant memories of Amma, and they have shared a lot of happy moments with her. And with this, I'm going to invite some of our Tangent members to share and pay their respects. Let me first invite Jayashree. Jayashree, the President Tangent India, please come forward and please talk about your, yes. Jayashree, go ahead.
I never had the opportunity of meeting Amma, like you all are fondly calling her. But yes, my journey with her actually started when Sukanya posted the video when she was commended by the president. And that's when I started following this lady. She was one of the oldest ladies that I was following in my series of being a follower of. I really did want to meet her because of what she was, but because of this wonderful daughter that she had. And I kept wondering that who could be a mother of a daughter like Sukanya? You know, so modest, so graceful, because this would all come from a heritage. And now seeing the interview this lady was, I'm so proud that we have been able to share the same platform as hers. I have nothing more to speak on this, but I can only leave this with everybody. Sukanya, you are privileged to be the daughter of such a wonderful mother. Thank you for giving us space amongst her space. And I'd like the others to speak more. Thank you so much.
I'm going to invite Kalpana Uday Kumar, who shared many, many fond moments with Amma. Kalpana, please come forward.
Thank you, Pavan. Pavan, all the others here, and Sukanya, I'm overwhelmed. I'm sure you'll all see the same thing that I saw. Sukanya is such a true version of a pretty, pretty mother. Looking at Sukanya, I think of a mother. Looking at a mother, I think of Sukanya. I count myself very fortunate that I have met and had conversations with a lady of such an exemplary caliber and a loving nature. I have known Sukanya since my college days. 40 years ago, I knew her. We were very different then, not as close as we are now. It's only, later after we got married and we joined Tangent more specifically that we got so close. And then when both of us were on Tangent India board, we would meet very often and I would go to visit her house. And any visit to our house wouldn't be complete without meeting dear mother. She was always ready to sit up and talk to us. And in spite of her problems, backache particularly, she always, was so loving and affectionate. And, I always came out of the room after talking to her filled with admiration and inspiration. She was so alert and so much in control, even at the age of 96, 97. Obviously now we can relate with a glorious work life filled with selfless service and her equal treatment of all. Sukanya has told me about this. Irrespective of the class or the nature or the gender of the patients who came in, she always treated them very well and very equally. And she has remained a true philanthropist even after her retirement. Donation to Tangent 10, to Ladies Circle, to Tangent India, to Rotary, and to many other, deserving causes and deserving people. That has always been her forte. Always with a smile, she was well-read, a great musician, and a great conversationalist, and an affectionate mother. She was a mother figure to all of us. The rich harvest of media praise she's acquiring even now, Sukanya, irrespective of Babu, okay, on her own merit. She's acquiring even now goes to show what a wonderful human being she was. She will always remain etched in our hearts. Sukanya, you've been an ideal daughter to her. So caring and so loving always. And I count myself lucky to be your good friend. And I am sure everybody here in Tangent 10, in Tangent India, and in TCI too, consider themselves lucky to be your friend. Let peace prevail, let love prevail. Our prayers are always with your mother. And just like the slide shows, your mother is always with us in Tangent India. She donated so generously. I mean, not that she was going to get any tax exemption or anything. She open-heartedly, so generously, she donated the money and she will live on forever in our hearts and in our minds. Thank you, Pavan, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Jayashree, and thank you, Sukanya.
May I now invite Jyoti Singh Dev, our current Vice President, Tangent India. Please, Jyoti, I think Jyoti met her very recently. Yeah, Jyoti, go ahead.
Thank you, Pawan. I pay memory of Amma, who left for her heavenly abode after a very fulfilling, meaningful, and accomplished life. Amma was a beautiful soul, full of love and faith. I consider myself fortunate and blessed to have come to know her towards the end of her life. She used to be very happy when we visited and stayed with Sukanya. Amma was very affectionate and loving towards me. We would spend time talking of her illustrious career as a doctor in the Air Force and about my family and the good old days. Amma was very fond of sweets, and I would carry our Orissa delicacy, Chena Podopita, for her. She would instruct Sukanya to keep it only for her. No sharing with Babu. The sari I have draped today is a gift from her. I was told that every year on her birthday, she would gift saris to all her family members and domestic helps. When I stayed with Sukanya during the MTM in February, I was one lucky and fortunate tangent member to receive this precious gift from Amma, which I will always cherish. Sukanya, I would like to offer you, Babu, your brother, and your family members our deepest and most sincere condolences. May Amma's noble soul rest in eternal peace. May our friendship and prayers ease you through this difficult time. Words may not suffice to express the heartfelt sorrow that I feel in the passing away of Amma. Her departure from this earth never truly leaves, for she is still in my heart. My family joins me in our prayers for Amma, who is now radiating her loving and caring nature at the feet of God. Om Shanti. Thank you.
I'm now going to invite Bijal, and she is going to bestow the Women of Substance Award to Amma posthumously. Bijal, over to you.
Thank you, Pawan. Sukanya, I also was one of the few people who were fortunate enough to meet Amma, and very recently when I had come for the MTM, I had been to Sukanya's house and I had met Amma over there, and what a woman she was. And she gave me also a lovely green color silk sari, which I still treasure and I still wear it very often. I have some very fond memories. Both Prashant and me both have some lovely fond memories of her. And this is something which, on behalf of Tangent India, Jayashree, can you spotlight?
You are spotlighted.
Spotlighted.
Yes.
Okay, fine. I can't see myself.
Yes.
Yeah, this is what is made for Amma on behalf of Tangent India. And tomorrow morning, I shall courier the same to Sukanya. So this was an idea which came from Jayashree. So I said, we are doing so many Women of Substance Awards. This lady is there amongst us, and she's our dear Sukanya's mother. So I think it was a great idea of Jayashree to honor and bestow this award for Amma.
Yes. Thank you, Bijal. I'm now going to request Priya Khator, our own Tangent from Surat. She is going to render a Kabir Bhajan for all of us. Over to you, Priya. Please unmute.
My condolences to you, Sukanya ji, and your whole family. I'm really impressed and in awe of the lady that was your mother. You were so blessed and you will always be blessed. This is a bhajan by Kabir ji. मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मैं तो तेरे पास में, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में, ना एकांत निवास में। ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में, ना एकांत निवास में। ना मंदिर में ना मस्जिद में, ना मंदिर में ना मस्जिद में, ना काबे कैलाश में, ना काबे कैलाश में। मैं तो तेरे पास में, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मुझको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, ना मैं जप में ना मैं तप में, ना मैं व्रत उपास में। ना मैं जप में ना मैं तप में, ना मैं व्रत उपास में। ना मैं क्रिया कर्म में रहता, ना मैं क्रिया कर्म में रहता, ना ही जोग संन्यास में, ना ही जोग संन्यास में। मैं तो तेरे पास में, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मुझको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, खोजी हो तुरंत मिल जाऊं, एक पल की तलाश में। खोजी हो तुरंत मिल जाऊं, एक पल की तलाश में। कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, मैं तो हूँ विश्वास में, मैं तो हूँ विश्वास में। मैं तो तेरे पास में, मैं तो तेरे पास। मुझको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे।
Thank you. I would like everybody to observe 1 minute silence for the departed soul and pray for her peace. This, we have come to the conclusion of this prayer meeting. Thank you all for joining. And this is to let you know, Sukanya, that the entire Tangent family is there and it shares the grief that you're going through. Please Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Will
Thank you.
Sukanya say something?
Yes, I'm going to ask Sukanya now because she wants to speak last. Okay, go ahead, Sukanya.
My logging in today into this call is such an emotional moment for me. A moment that I know that I'm not alone in facing this huge void in my life. Though it really seems like the end of an era, now my mom is even larger than life. My mother being honored by Tangent India, which are my dearest family of friends. It is the highest respect and comfort for me. And I, on behalf of my family, I thank you very much. I must have done something really good to deserve friends like you who are so caring and so sensitive. Coming from a family of very illustrious pioneering doctors, I'm humbled and very proud to say that they were all self-made and they stood tall on their own merits. My paternal grandfather in the 30s was a Rockefeller Foundation scholar who did his master's in public health from the Harvard School of Public Health in the 30s. And my parents were the first couple of the Indian Air Force. My father was such a dashing, handsome man. My son said, if I got a call from Karan Johar to make a film, he would put Vidya Balan in mom's role, but he wouldn't find anyone half as good looking, half as charismatic, and half as intelligent, who would take my dad's role. So anyway, on a jolly note, I told him, why don't you act? Anyway, but unfortunately, my father died very young of cancer at 46 in a family of doctors who stood mute spectator to see the big C take his life. And overnight, my mother's career, she became a breadwinner. And the other day, the best compliment I think my mother has ever received is that I know she did promise my father that she would take care of his parents, but the biggest compliment that she ever got was, he has fulfilled every duty of my father's to his huge extended family also in her last breath. And nobody in his humongous family ever felt he wasn't around. So whether it is financially, whether it is physically, medically, emotionally, she has been there for his family, even though he wasn't not there. And the stories that have emerged, have always emerged. I could relate so many to you. As Pawan requested, I come up with some anecdotes. It could be my mom singing Carnatic music in the operation theater that her patients remember. Delivering somebody's baby and then telling, don't bother calling your parents for discharging you. I will drop you home in my car on my way home. Or, me going with her to see her first set of triplets. Or her staying up all night to save a patient's life. And I see what the kind of there is nothing that the parents of that lady won't do for my mother. When you save somebody's daughter's life, it is something that that can never be replaced with anything material. Or we going for those rare movies, and there is, in those days, there will be a sign on the black and white thing on the screen saying that so and so car number so and so, you are expected outside immediately, there's an emergency in the hospital. So we all have to very cribbing and complaining troop out of the theater. Or going along with my father's best friend, Commander Christian, to see the inside of India's first aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant. I mean, that is such a privilege. And to see the combat systems in place, to see, the hangar and the helicopters that are within an aircraft carrier, which nobody would be privy to. And of course, to delivering my own babies. So the list is endless about anecdotes. Personally, for me, there's a deep sense of satisfaction. I have been the sole caregiver of my mother due to several circumstances since my brother stays in Los Angeles. I also feel a deep sense of fulfillment because she came to stay with me for the last 7 years. and is very, very reluctantly, and she'd like to tell everybody that I've come here like a guest. So actually, I'd like to share with you what it means for me to be her daughter. Growing up in such a erudite, illustrious family, where the only what shall I say, the wealth was education, and what you gave back to the community. So the first value, as my mother has said, is to me is the same thing: duty and loyalty to your country, to your profession. There was absolutely no compromise or cutting corners in patient care. But what filters down with this is basically correct principles and work ethics. So these are the foundation stones. They will automatically encompass your family also within this umbrella. And we have to understand that they all worked in an era where there was no diagnostic equipment to make a correct diagnosis or prognosis. So she could tell with her hands how many weeks gone a mother was, or from the sensations of a mother she could tell how many weeks pregnant she was. And till today, I mean, not a single diagnosis has ever gone wrong without a scan. There was no scan, there was no imaging, nothing. So in that respect, I think they did a pretty decent job. And the other one is, of course, sacrifice before self, service to others before self. So thinking of ourselves first is it's not a way of life in our family. And my grandfather, he was very proud of the fact that he did go to Harvard, but he would say there can be no higher prayer than service to mankind, or in their case, in my case, it would be another human being, or in all our cases. So, in spite of the high position that he held, he was director of public health, he was in the WHO, and he gave it all up to come and stay with my mother and the kids, actually, daughter-in-law and the children, when she got her first separate posting. And everybody would ask, how come you don't have a house or a car? But I now know that train loads of people would come from our village, stay with them, eat there. In the 30s, he had a petrol bill of $300 to $500, and he would buy that ticket and send them home. So they knew so-and-so was there, so-and-so's relative. They would come for treatment, and so that's how generous. Another thing is self-discipline. My mom would say was good for health. So in these 10 days, the discipline, the regime, the everything is out of the window. We're all so dhila. Okay. So, but then if you have the flexibility within that, I think that is good. And I think my Tangent 10 girls have seen all this. It's tough, but not impossible, as she would say. Another thing that has come down to me is, we have to be centered to our roots. For my mother, and my parents, there was no, in the Air Force, the service is so much of rank discrimination. There was no such thing. Absolute, everybody was the same for her. She would talk to, whether it would be Bijal or Jyoti and any of my Tangent 10 girls, same. She'd probably be nicer to them than to me. She was sort of very tough. If you notice in the program, I think that interview happened at the height of the Me Too movement. And the interviewer, I think, basically wanted to ask my mother if she had faced sexual harassment. And I think she couldn't bring it to herself to ask those questions. So my mother said, we were like a happy family. So my husband and I were sniggering at the back, saying that I don't think the men liked her much. She was nowhere desirable. I don't think she was close to even likable, because she called a spade a spade. And if that guy was forget a spade and he was a dumbo, she would tell him that too. So she's not very likable, very unpopular, because she was very, very straightforward and very, very blunt. But she was extremely generous. I think if you look, I think I hope that would come to me, because there was she's totally self-made and what shall I say, upright, honest, not at all corrupt defense person. If you see the proportion of her philanthropy vis-a-vis her assets, it's phenomenal. And she really had a soft corner for Tangent and the Rotary Club, and of course cancer care, health care and education mainly. And I'm really so overwhelmed, touched, and what shall I say? I have no words to express adequate gratitude for this wonderful commemoration of my mother's life. So this is what I would like to say to my mother today, and dedicate this to all the mothers who have left us. You left me beautiful memories. Your love is still my guide. Though we cannot see you, you're always at my side. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very touching, very emotional speech. Beautiful.
Sukanya.
Sukanya, those words were so full of meaning. It speaks volumes of what we feel when our mothers are not there.
So sad.
I just wanted to add one thing. When I visited Sukanya and I met her, her mother was thrilled to know that I was also from Madras, from Chennai. And we sat and chatted, and she discussed about how things are today versus what they were when she was there. So much so Sukanya finally said, Heppu, please get ready and let's move, because we had to go for a meeting. And she said, okay, I'll see you in the evening then. But unfortunately, I was leaving after that. So I told her, I'll see you another time. I have to wait now to see her another time in another place. Thank you.
Sukanya, you're so gracious. I feel you're just an embodiment of this wonderful person your mother was. And I can understand how you feel. And your tribute to her is unbelievable. I really don't have words to say. It isn't easy, to lose a parent, but you're so gracious, so wonderful, and I can imagine it, my misfortune that I never met her.
Thank you, Jogi. I was really hoping you would come and stay. I never thought the end would come so soon. I really thought she'd really bounce back.
No, I really wish I could have met her. The conversations we've had about her and what I've heard today, my hats off to her. She's a wonderful person.
Hi, Sukanya.
Hey, Gauri, you made it?
Yeah, I just made it. I heard you speaking. I'm glad that I could at least make it at the last. Really touching, of course. I have very, very sweet memories of your mom. I always used to, come and make it a point to sit with her and talk to her. I've enjoyed a lot of good memories with her. Thank you so much. And God bless you all.
I have to thank you, Gauri. You all have been my, what shall I say, my backbone, my tower of strength. And I think there is a Lord above who made sure that she stayed well in the 4 years that I was on the Tangent India board. Kalpana knows how reluctant and unwilling I was, and all of Tangent knows that. But I think Kalpana's wisdom, her foresight, I would say, and all these girls standing behind me, it made it happen.
And Amma was proud that you were with Tangent. I know that.
Oh, yeah.
She was the driving force for her. I think that was the.
Yeah. Thank you, Gauri. I mean, it's fantastic. You made it. You made it just in time.
Yeah, no, I put on this one on the phone. I was seeing it with my meeting going on the other side. I was seeing what was going on here.
The advantage of virtual meetings. Yes. Yeah. Thank you all, ladies. Thank you all for joining this. She will be one lady who walked amongst us and will be remembered by all of us sometime. So Kanya, take a hug from all of us in Tangent India.
Thank you.
God bless you. You're a beautiful person coming from a beautiful mother. God bless you. I'm ending the meeting now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.